Welcome back, Yellowstone fans. Prepare yourselves for shocking twists. Step into the untold chaos of the Dutton dynasty's origins. The explosive first trailer for Yellowstone, 1969, 2026, has finally arrived, plunging fans into the lawless wilderness of the American West, where power is forged in blood and betrayal. Plus, get the jaw-dropping casting update. Hollywood icons and rising stars collide to bring the Duttons' ruthless past to life. Will this prequel rewrite everything you thought you knew about Yellowstone? The war for the ranch began long before you imagined. Before the modern-day battles for the Dutton Ranch, there was an era of raw ambition, unbridled violence, and the birth of a dynasty. Paramount Plus has just dropped the first look at Yellowstone, 1969, the highly anticipated prequel to Taylor Sheridan's Yellowstone saga, and it's a visceral plunge into the untamed heart of the American West. Set against the backdrop of a nation in turmoil, the trailer teases a world where land is won with bullets, loyalty is tested by fire, and the Dutton name is carved into history with blood. Alongside the trailer comes a bombshell casting update, A-list heavyweights and fresh faces, including an Oscar-winning legend as the ruthless patriarch and a breakout talent as his cunning heir, are set to ignite the screen. Ready to ride into the past that shaped Yellowstone's future? Saddle up. The truth behind the Duttons' rise is darker, deadlier, and more gripping than anyone predicted. The year is 1969, a time of cultural upheaval, frontier lawlessness, and the ruthless rise of the Dutton dynasty. Yellowstone, 1969, is an explosive prequel to Taylor Sheridan's Yellowstone saga that plunges viewers into the untamed origins of America's most iconic ranch. This isn't just a story of land, it's a visceral saga of survival, where loyalty is a currency paid in blood, and the Dutton name is etched into history with bullets and betrayal. Set against the rugged backdrop of post-war America, Yellowstone, 1969 unravels the fractured beginnings of the Dutton legacy. John Dutton Sr. is no hero. He's a hardened rancher navigating a world where government land grabs, rival cattle barons, and indigenous land disputes threaten to tear his family apart. The trailer teases a lawless Montana, where wildfires scorch the plains and alliances shift like the wind. The year is 1969. As the Vietnam War rages and societal unrest simmers, the Dutton family is not yet the formidable dynasty of Yellowstone lore. They are struggling ranchers, fighting to hold on to 50,000 acres of contested land. John Dutton Sr., a World War II veteran portrayed with gritty intensity by Oscar Isaac, battles threats on all fronts: corrupt government agents scheming to seize his property, rival cattle barons hungry for expansion, indigenous tribes reclaiming ancestral grounds, and a shadowy syndicate plotting to monetize the Yellowstone. His wife, Margaret Dutton, Florence Pugh, a former rodeo sharpshooter, balances her role as mother of three with a shrewd understanding of the brutal politics required to survive. The story ignites with an act of arson, a wildfire set by the enigmatic outlaw Silas Red Harlow, Tom Hardy, who accuses the Duttons of stealing his family's land decades earlier. Forced to rebuild their homestead from ashes, John Sr. assembles a militia of loyal cowhands, including a young and volatile Lloyd Pierce, Austin Butler, whose future loyalty will become legendary. But survival demands brutal choices. John Sr. strikes a deal with crooked land agent Walton Goggins, trading favors for grazing rights, while Margaret secretly negotiates with a wealthy cattle baron, Glenn Close, leveraging their ranch as collateral. Tensions escalate when their teenage son, Jacob, the future patriarch of 1888 : kills a Lakota teen during a border clash, a secret Margaret buries to protect the family. The Duttons' fragile peace unravels further as Silas infiltrates the ranch, posing as a drifter and manipulating their youngest daughter, Elsa, into revealing weaknesses. His betrayal culminates in a violent ambush that leaves the family reeling. Meanwhile, the Lakota tribe, led by Chief Tatanka Iote, West Studi, demands the return of sacred burial grounds within the Yellowstone, sparking a moral crisis looms for Margaret. As John Sr. spirals into vengeance, Margaret risks everything in a high-stakes poker game with the Cavaliers, outwitting them with a hidden derringer and loaded dice to secure a loan that could either save or destroy their legacy. The final confrontation erupts in a three-pronged siege. Silas's gang and Lakota warriors assault the ranch, leading to a chaotic shootout in a burning barn. John Sr. and Lloyd narrowly defend their land, but the cost is devastating. A fractured marriage, a son gravely wounded, and a daughter fleeing to California mark the Duttons' Pyrrhic victory. In the aftermath, John Sr. brands his inner circle with the iconic Y, declaring it a vow to prioritize the land above all else. Yet shadows linger. The Lakota tribe carves a vow of vengeance into stone. Elsa disappears into the 1970s counterculture. John Sr. drowns his guilt in whiskey, muttering about ghosts in the soil. The story closes with a glimpse of the future. In 1989, a young John Dutton II, Miles Teller, arrives at the ranch, staring at his father's grave and vowing to continue the fight. The camera lingers on the Yellowstone brand, now a symbol of both legacy and curse, as the cycle of violence prepares to repeat. The cast breathes life into the chaos. Oscar Isaac's John Dutton Sr. is a storm of charisma and ruthlessness. Florence Pugh's Margaret is a masterclass in cunning and resilience. Tom Hardy's Silas is a villain who believes himself the hero. Wes Studi's portrayal of Chief Tatanka Iote adds searing depth to the indigenous resistance. Austin Butler's performance as Lloyd offers a glimpse of the wild loyalty that will shape the Dutton legacy. The year 1969 marked a pivotal moment in Montana's history as the state grappled with the collapse of corporate dominance and the rise of grassroots movements that reshaped its political and social landscape. For decades, Montana had been economically and politically controlled by the Anaconda Copper Mining Company, a monopoly so pervasive it was dubbed the copper collar around the state's neck. By the late 1960s, however, public frustration over environmental destruction from mining, corporate corruption, and a lack of democratic accountability reached a boiling point. This discontent fueled Montana's second progressive era, a period of reform that began in 1965 and peaked in the early 1970s. In 1969, newly elected Governor Forrest H. Anderson took office with a mandate to dismantle corporate control. His administration prioritized modernizing state government, increasing transparency, and addressing environmental concerns. Alec Hansen, a former Anaconda employee turned journalist and political strategist, joined Anderson's team in September 1969 as a special assistant, working to counter corporate influence through press and communications. Hansen later described this era as a turning point, when Montanans began reclaiming power from corporate oligarchs. The state's activism was multifaceted. Labor unions staged strikes against exploitative mining practices, while environmentalists rallied against the Anaconda Company's pollution of rivers and landscapes, a fight that culminated in the landmark 1971 Montana Environmental Policy Act. Simultaneously, the Vietnam War deepened generational divides, with returning veterans and young activists challenging traditional authority and demanding social justice. Indigenous communities, including the Lakota and Northern Cheyenne, amplified calls for recognition of treaty rights and sovereignty, particularly over ancestral lands threatened by resource extraction. Cultural tensions simmered between rural ranchers, who prioritized land use for agriculture, and urban progressives advocating for environmental protections and social reforms. Investigative journalists played a critical role in exposing corporate malfeasance, with outlets like the Montana Standard becoming platforms for reform. This upheaval laid the groundwork for the 1972 Montana Constitutional Convention, a landmark event that produced one of the nation's most progressive state constitutions. The new document enshrined environmental rights, banned poll taxes, and empowered citizens through direct democracy tools like ballot initiatives. Key figures emerged during this crucible. Evan Barrett, a historian and filmmaker, later documented the era through interviews with over 75 activists, politicians, and citizens in his series In the Crucible of Change. Dorothy Eck, a delegate to the 1972 convention, championed environmental and women's rights, while figures like Alec Hansen symbolized Montana's shift from corporate loyalty to civic empowerment. The story of Yellowstone, 1969 closes not with triumph, but with the quiet, haunting certainty that the Dutton legacy is as much a curse as it is a birthright. The ranch stands scarred but unbroken, its fields still smoldering from Silas Harlow's final ambush and the Lakota's defiant retreat. John Dutton Sr., Oscar Isaac, paces the porch of the rebuilt homestead, a bottle of whiskey in hand, his eyes hollowed by the weight of bargains made and blood spilled. The brand on his inner circle's chest, the stark white burn, remains a grim reminder. The land always wins. Margaret Dutton, Florence Pugh, stares at the horizon, her hands calloused from reins and revolvers. Her heart split between pride and regret. She saved the Yellowstone, but at the cost of her marriage and her daughter's innocence. Elsa, now vanished into the haze of 1970s California, leaves behind only a note. This land eats souls. I won't let it eat mine. Jacob, the eldest son, buries his guilt over the Lakota teen's death beneath a mask of cold resolve, already hardening into the ruthless patriarch fans recognize from 1883. The Lakota, led by Chief Tatanka Iotaki, West Studi, withdraw to their reservation, but not before etching a vow into the trunk of a sacred cottonwood. The Dutton will feed this earth with their bones. Silas Harlow, Tom Hardy, lies in an unmarked grave, his legend fading into campfire tales. But his final whisper to John Sr. lingers like poison. You'll die like I did, alone and wrong. In the shadows, young Lloyd Pierce, Austin Butler, tends to the branded men. His loyalty is now unquestioned, his idealism eroded into blind obedience. The ranch's future is secured, but its soul is forfeit. As the camera pulls back, the Yellowstone's vast expanse stretches under a blood-orange sunset, the land itself seeming to breathe with ancient, unforgiving life. A post-credit scene fast-forwards to 1989. A weathered John Dutton II, Miles Teller, kneels at his father's grave. The headstone reads, John Dutton Sr., he held the line. He grips the Yellowstone brand, heated in a nearby forge, and presses it to his own chest without flinching. Your war ends here, he mutters, a promise as hollow as the wind. The screen fades to black, leaving only the crackle of flames and the distant cry of a wolf. The screen fades again to a desolate Montana twilight. John Dutton Sr., Oscar Isaac, stands alone in the scorched remains of the barn, the air thick with the stench of gunpowder and burnt timber. His hands tremble as he clutches a faded photograph of his family, taken before the fires, before the bloodshed. A whiskey bottle lies shattered at his feet, its contents seeping into the soil like the sins he can't outrun. Margaret, Florence Pugh, watches from the porch, her silhouette framed by the dying sun. She cradles a letter from Elsa, postmarked San Francisco, 1971. The words blur as tears fall. You chose the land. I choose freedom. Inside the house, young Jacob sharpens a hunting knife. His face is stone. The Dutton saga isn't over. This is just the beginning. If you want to ride shotgun as we dive deeper into the Yellowstone, 1969 chaos, trailer breakdowns, cast deep dives, and secrets even John Dutton Sr. wouldn't spill, hit that subscribe and ring the bell. This land demands loyalty. Don't miss the next chapter. Behind-the-scenes leaks from the set, exclusive interviews with the cast. Yes, even Tom Hardy's cowboy secrets. Post-credit theories that'll blow your mind. Comment below, who's your MVP? Margaret's cunning, John Sr.'s ruthlessness, Silas Harlow's chaotic swagger? Let's start a war in the comments. The Yellowstone legacy lives here. Don't get left in the dust. Subscribe, smash like, turn on notifications.